What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel, JG Production. So what we're going to be doing today is reacting to two horror stories, and it's from IMR Scary Tales, and let's see how scary they are.
Halloween night has always been just another date on the calendar for me. While people partied in ridiculous costumes, I was at my office, huddled over a dimly lit screen. Fixing code was my life, and that night was no different. So, when Julian, my coworker, called about a file crash, I didn't think twice before heading in to fix it. By the time I was done, it was close to 1:30 a.m. The streets were deathly quiet, while the moon was a merely cold, distant eye overhead. I was so damn tired that all I could think about was getting home, taking a long shower, and crashing into bed. 15 minutes, that's all it would have taken. The night air was heavy and still as I drove through the empty roads. Totally normal. But as I passed an old, almost forgotten bus stop, I saw her, a girl standing alone under the flickering streetlight. She was dressed like Samara from The Ring, pale skin, dark hair hanging in wet clumps over her face. She couldn't have been older than 14, standing there all alone in the dead of night. I pulled over and rolled down the window.
Why would you pull over?
Hey, you need a ride? I called out. She turned slowly, her face still hidden beneath the curtain of hair. For a moment, I hesitated. What if she took me for a creep and ran the cops? But then she nodded timidly.
Thanks.
She slid into the passenger seat. Suddenly, a pungent odor like damp earth and something else, something rotten, filled the interior. I tried not to gag and blamed it on her overzealous Halloween costume. You really went for the looks, didn't you? I giggled, trying to lighten the mood. Her skin was an eerie shade of gray, mottled and blotchy, as if she'd been underwater for far too long. The attention to detail was disturbing. It wasn't until we drove across the bridge that she spoke.
It's not a costume,
she whispered. I let out a nervous laugh. Right, so what's your name?
Dude, get out of the car.
Samara.
She replied. Even though my eyes were glued on the road, I couldn't help the chill creeping down my spine. I cleared my throat. Aren't you a little old for trick-or-treating, Samara? She laughed then, a low, rasping sound that made my skin crawl.
I am.
She's not even alive.
But Halloween is my favorite night. It's a shame my parents don't let me celebrate anymore.
Why's that? I asked, regretting the question the moment it left my mouth.
They think I'm sick. I spend most days locked up in the attic.
Her voice was barely a whisper, but the words clung to the air, heavy and suffocating. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. Before I could react, Samara slowly turned to me. Her hideous face was fully visible in the soft light. I noticed her skin first, peeling, hanging in ragged strips from her cheeks. It didn't look like makeup. Then, my eyes traveled down to her arms, and the raw red flesh exposing beneath it.
You want to see a magic trick?
She asked, her lips curling into a smile that sent ice through my veins. Before I could respond, she reached up and peeled a patch of skin from her face. It came off in one sickening tear, revealing more of that oozing crimson flesh. I had never slammed on the brakes like that before. What the hell is wrong with you? I shouted, but she just laughed, started pulling at more patches of skin, ripping it from her neck, her arms, her scalp, everywhere. Blood dripped onto her lap, and the smell, oh God, the smell, thick and putrid, filled the air. I couldn't breathe, my vision blurred, my hands trembling as I fumbled for the door handle. The air was thick, choking me, and that laughter, it wouldn't stop. I threw myself out of the car, my feet stumbling as I broke into a run. I could hear my heart beating in my ears. I didn't look back. I couldn't. I don't know how long I ran, but eventually I found myself at a gas station. The harsh fluorescent lights felt like salvation. I staggered inside, breathless, as I tried explaining the incident to the clerk. In a second, the cops were informed. The officers arrived quickly, and when I explained what had happened, they exchanged looks that were to remain my nightmare for the rest of my life. They didn't think I was crazy, but their silence was almost verbal. They escorted me back to the car. I was still there, the engine idling softly, but the passenger seat was empty. Instead, an older couple was standing by the side of the road. Their faces were contorted with worry. The officer spoke to them briefly before turning to me. "Mr. Miller, this is Mr. and Mrs. Peterson," one of the cops said. "Their daughter, Mary, she's been missing since last week." I stared at the couple, my mind struggling to connect the dots. Mary?
She's not well.
Mrs. Peterson said, her voice trembling.
She had a fever years ago.
Bro.
It did something to her skin. The bullying at school broke her irreparably. Mary thinks she's Samara. You know that girl from the horror movie, The Ring? Was drowned in a well for being weird and creepy.
I felt the blood drain from my face. The girl, she wasn't some ghost. She was real. All of it. Everything she said, it was real. And it's even more twisted that she found similarities with the dead girl from the movie Ring. The cops asked where I'd last seen her, but I could barely get the words out. My mind kept flashing back to her peeling skin, her laughter. I mumbled something about the bus stop. As they drove off, a cold dread settled in. What if they didn't find her in time? What if she hurt herself? Or someone else? Halloween is about masks and make-believe, but sometimes we can barely tell if it's a costume or...
Oh my gosh. That's wild.
My heart skipped a beat when I matched with Adam. His profile showed a charming smile, dark hair, and a hint of mystery. He mentioned he was new in town and looking to make connections. We hit it off immediately, sharing jokes and stories late into the night.
Those online dating apps, not
Uncle
it.
throws this incredible Halloween party every year.
Just weird.
You should come.
Find weird people on there.
Adam replied, "Sounds fun. I'll be the guy in the classic sailor costume. White uniform, navy accents, and a simple black mask. Can't wait
Black
to meet
mask.
you in person." It seemed odd to me how he was already ready with a costume, but since Halloween was approaching, I didn't think much of it. The night of the party arrived and my uncle's old house was alive with music and laughter. My uncle's place was always the highlight of the season.
Heck yeah.
Elaborate
Halloween party.
decorations that transformed it
Up,
into a haunted mansion. I wore a flapper dress, complete with feathers and pearls, feeling like I'd stepped back into 1920s. As I mingled with friends, I spotted Adam across the room. The sailor costume suited him perfectly, and the black mask added an air of intrigue.
He looks freaking creepy.
He approached with a confident smile. "Julia, I presume?"
Guilty as charged. Glad you could make it.
We clicked instantly.
She's
way
dead.
Of making me feel like
She's
we
gonna
were
get killed
the
by him.
only two people in the crowded room. We danced to the upbeat music.
He's gonna end up being a creep.
He leaned in. "You know, I could totally see you dressing up like a princess and dancing through
What
these."
the heck?
I actually did that. Uncle's Halloween parties are
That's a red flag right there.
amazing. I couldn't see him. Else I would have introduced you.
He smiled mysteriously.
Yeah.
You seem like someone who grew up with grand
Yep,
traditions.
he's a creep.
I giggled like a teen. Later, as the party buzzed around us, he suggested we find a quieter spot. He led me to my uncle's old study, a room filled with antique furniture and family heirlooms. The scent of aged books and polished wood surrounded us. I hadn't been in there for years. Adam picked up a vintage photograph from the mantelpiece. "Is this you?" I peered at the picture. It was me as a child sitting on the porch of this very house.
It is. I didn't realize my uncle still had this out. Also, great eye.
You've hardly changed.
I was a child.
You're still to me.
What the heck?
Nothing. He
That's a
nodded,
red flag
his
right there.
eyes unreadable behind the mask, hiding a pretty face which I was craving to see.
There's something
He
pretty
locked
about
his
that
eyes
face.
with me, put a hand on my back, and pulled me in,
Oh.
leaning to give a kiss. I moved back and decided to change the subject.
I should probably get back to my friends.
Yeah.
As we rejoined the party, I reached for my
She's
phone
scared.
at the time, but it was missing from my purse.
No.
Odd.
I murmured, "Everything okay?"
My
He
phone's
took
gone.
it. He took it.
I must
It's
have
him.
left it somewhere.
He reached into his pocket and handed it to me. Found this on your uncle's table. I took it slowly.
Whatever, you took it out of the purse, fool.
Thanks. Never realized I took it out.
But
you didn't.
Lingered.
You took it out of your purse.
Myself.
Maybe I just need something to drink.
Adam handed me a glass from the nearby table.
It's spiked.
Go.
The drink is spiked. Don't drink that.
What is it?
Don't drink it.
Just punch.
No.
Promise it'll make you feel better. I sipped cautiously. The room.
No,
the
bro.
lights a bit too bright. Adam stayed close.
Bro.
Slightly touching my elbows.
Nah.
You seem tense.
I'm fine.
I insisted, even though I wasn't sure. As the evening wore on, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. His voice, his mannerisms, they all seemed strangely familiar. I tried to recall
a serial killer,
before, but my thoughts were muddled. Needing a moment alone, I slipped away to find the bathroom. On my way, I noticed a door ajar leading into a small storage room. Drawn by curiosity,
Dude.
I stepped inside.
Why would you go into there?
Stacked
Why?
on shelves were boxes labeled with family names. One box in particular caught my eye. It had my mother's name on it. I opened it to find old photographs and letters. Among them was a picture that made my blood run cold. It was my uncle at a past Halloween party, wearing the exact sailor costume Adam
What
won. The white uniform, navy accents, and black mask. I stumbled
That's your
back,
uncle?
memories flooding in. The way Adam knew about my childhood, the familiar gestures, his presence in the study surrounded by family mementos. Heart pounding, I rushed back to the party.
At that point, you just leave.
Frantically,
Get out.
but couldn't find him.
Get out of the house and
Calling
leave.
my parents, I hurried over.
Mom, Dad, I need to talk to you.
Yeah, you tell your parents. You tell
They
your
looked
parents.
concerned. What is it, honey? I told them everything. Their faces paled. My father clenched his jaw. Are you sure? I nodded.
He knew things.
He's a predator.
Things.
Ah.
And the costume. It's his.
Without another word, my father
Dude,
went
that's
to call the
just
police while
weird.
my mother stayed by my side. Minutes later, officers arrived, discreetly making their way through the guests. They found my uncle in the garage doing drugs and escorted him out, his mask removed to reveal a smug expression. As he passed me,
he's a creep.
he gave a sly smile. I just wanted to dance with you, Julia, baby.
Ooh.
I'll return for that kiss. A
Ooh.
chill settled over me. My mother hugged me tightly. The realization that someone I trusted had crossed such a line left me feeling exposed and vulnerable. In the days that followed, I tried to make sense of it all. How long had he been watching me? Why would he do this? One thing was certain. The masks people wear aren't always part of a costume. Sometimes, they're there to hide the darkest intentions.
Gonna be all for today, guys. Thank you for watching this video. Hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, and heck yeah, see you guys.